The third name for this festival is Bikurim, first fruits. And as we were talking about in Omer Reshit, it is also a holiday of first fruits. It's the first fruits of the barley harvest. This holiday is the first fruits of the wheat harvest. It's talked about in Exodus 23:16. And the feast of the harvest, Chag HaKatzir, the first fruits, Bikurim, of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. So we looked at this verse earlier. Leviticus 23:17. Ye shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2/10 deals. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto Yahweh. And this is a little bit unusual offering that has yeast in it. It is the offering that's brought at Shavu'ot, the 2 loaves. The word Bikurim comes from a root, Bachar, which means to be born first. Deuteronomy 21:16. Then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. Ezekiel 47:12. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow all trees for meat, whose leaf shall not fade, neither shall the fruit thereof be consumed. It shall bring forth new fruit according to his months, because their waters they issued out of the sanctuary, and the fruit thereof shall be for meat, and the leaf thereof for medicine. Talking about the millennial kingdom. Bachor is a noun that means the firstborn. Genesis 27:32. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. Psalm 78:51. And smote all the firstborn in Egypt, the chief of their strength, in the tabernacles of Ham. Jeremiah 31:9. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the river of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. Bechorah is a related word, which is the noun meaning the birthright. Genesis 25:31. And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. 1 Chronicles 5:1. Now the sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but forasmuch as he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given unto the sons of Joseph, the son of Israel. And the genealogy is not to be reckoned after the birthright. We have some cognate roots for Bachar, and they are Bachar with a chet instead of a kaf, and Bakar with a kuf. Bachar means to choose, to select, or to elect. Genesis 13:11. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Psalm 135:4. For Yahweh hath chosen Jacob unto himself, and Israel for his peculiar treasure. Isaiah 14:1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. A future time. Bakar with a kuf means to seek out or inquire. Psalm 27:4. One thing have I desired, Yahweh, that I will seek after, that I may dwell in the house of Yahweh all the days of my house, to behold the beauty of Yahweh, and to inquire in his temple. Ezekiel 34:12. As a shepherd seeketh out his flock in the day, that he is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep, and will deliver them out of all the places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. By extension, and we'll see in a minute how these words are all related together, Bakar also means herds. Sometimes it's translated as oxen. Genesis 33:13. And he said unto him, My Lord knoweth that the children are tender, and the flocks and herds with young are with me. And if men should overdrive them one day, all the flock will die. In Isaiah 11:7, and the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Let's look at one more word. This is a word that you probably already know, boker. It means morning. Genesis 1:5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. Lamentations 3:22, it is of Yahweh's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. How are these three ideas related together? It goes back, first of all, to the idea of plowing. So the idea of oxen, you can understand how that's related to plowing. When we plow the ground, we turn up some space, and that leaves the space to look for something, to inquire after something. We want to be turning up the information in the same way that an ox will plow up, be used for a plow, to plow up the ground. And morning is the time where we can begin to distinguish one thing from another. There's a section in the story of Ruth where Ruth is coming back from the midnight rendezvous, and as she's coming to the house, Naomi says, "Who are you?" And she says, "Oh, it's Ruth." It's just at that time of day when we can distinguish who's coming towards us. Is it a man or a woman? And that is the idea of boker, of morning. So all these ideas are related, and they're related to being chosen, in that Yahweh is going to choose his people by distinguishing between them. So we're going to get on and see how that works. What does this Festival of Weeks, this Chag HaKatzir, mean in the spiritual life of a believer? This festival commemorates the receiving of the Torah at Sinai and the receiving of the Holy Spirit after the resurrection of Yeshua. We are to live out the commandments of Yahweh by the Spirit of Yahweh. And also the number 50, which we've been counting until we reach this day, is the number of the Jubilee year. So all these ideas are connected to the linguistics of the names of the holiday. The Spirit being given is a promise, a shavu'ot, as we talked about earlier. Romans 8:23. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. So we also will receive a resurrection body in the future time, and we're waiting for that time during this period of harvest. 2 Corinthians 5:5. Now he that hath wrought us for the same thing is God, who also hath given to us the earnest of the Spirit. An earnest is an old word for like a deposit. If you want to buy a house, you're going to put down earnest money. You come with maybe $1,000 in a contract, and you say, yes, we really want to buy this house. We're putting a deposit. And so we have the deposit of the Spirit that guarantees us this future resurrection. Not now, later. We're going to see that the Spirit is poured out again. In Joel 2:28, and it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my Spirit. And Peter quotes this verse at the time of the pouring out of the Spirit in Acts in the first century, but he doesn't finish quoting the verse. And so we see that there is a future fulfillment as we continue in verse 2:30. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of Yahweh comes. So there is a future fulfillment. There will be another pouring out of the Spirit in the end days. And here's another example of it, Zechariah 12:10. And I will pour out upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. Here again we see the firstborn being referenced as part of this festival, the Bikur. In those days, they will be shortened. Matthew 24:22, and except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. And again in Mark 13:20, and except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, that is, for the sake of the chosen, whom he hath chosen, he hath shortened the days. We know that there is a coming harvest. Jeremiah 51:33, for thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her. Yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. This is talking about a future generation. Matthew 24:31, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. In Revelation 14:15, and another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle and on the earth, and the earth was reaped. There will be a time of choosing. We looked at this verse earlier, Isaiah 14:1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel. In other words, yet again he will choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Zechariah 1:17, cry yet, saying, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad, and Yahweh shall comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. Again in Zechariah 2:12, and Yahweh shall inherit Judah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. In Matthew 20:16, so the last shall be first, and the first last, for many be called, but few chosen. Revelation 17:14, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. In the end of times, the flocks and herds will be separated. Malachi 3:18, then shall ye return, and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not. In Matthew 25:32, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. I'm sure there are many other ideas that you will come to your mind as you begin to meditate on these words and these word roots, how they reflect an end times harvest which is coming in the future. In the meantime, tasim et ha'inayim al hashamayim, keep your eye on the sky, your redemption draweth nigh. Shalom.